When I first was introduced to the Indian Club, I didn't know what to expect. I thought that this was just another tool to use that I have to learn, in addition to the kettlebells that I'm using and the barbells and the body weight and stuff like that. But when I started to learn the patterns and started to realize how not only physically exhausting it was, but neurologically taxing, I started to realize that there's something to this. There's something to this restorative club that really will add something to my training. So I took this home and I started to practice the movements that I was taught at the workshop. And one of the movements that we went over was a simple outside-in pattern, this circular pattern that I started to introduce basically in between my sets. Prior to doing any kind of barbell work or some bench pressing. And what I started to notice was not only was I aware of how my posture was, but I started to really feel a lot better in the shoulder blade. So I felt more open in my T-spine, my posture was better, and then I started to notice that when I went to my barbell work and I went to my kettlebell work, I felt better in my setup position. I was able to get into the setup position much easier, and it allowed me to essentially lift more weight. And at the end of my sessions, where normally I was just beat up from using the barbell and the kettlebell, I didn't feel as bad because I was using this and I was using these circular motions with the club in between my sets. So I was basically taking a high tension movement like a deadlift, and then I was relaxing my whole entire body and working on my breath, swinging an Indian club in between. So I was able to go from this tension to total relaxation. And very quickly, within the matter of a couple sessions, is when I started to notice the difference. This is an Indian club. When you have a person come into your session and they're complaining of pain in their shoulder, what do? If you do not have the Indian Club as a tool, you're pretty much stuck with limiting the exercises that you can do in that session. And it may be, let's just work on some breathing. It may be, let's just lay on the mat and do some mobility drills. But what I would like is, I want to give my patient and my student the ability to figure out where that range of motion is and what they're capable of doing. And the Indian Club is a great tool for that. So somebody that comes in, they can't move their shoulder at all, they have pain. In a session, I've taken a student with that example and I'm giving them an Indian Club and asking questions as they're moving that club in these circular patterns with limited range of motion. Typically, what they tell me is, yes, this doesn't produce pain. I can do this circular pattern without any pain, as opposed to going vertical or pushing horizontally. These tend to produce pain for somebody who has an issue, or they just can't get this high. But they can move that shoulder in that circular motion where it puts the scapula in a very safe position. So in a typical session, with a student that has an issue like that, I will get them in a very short period of time able to move their shoulder in this fashion, which allows them to relax and lose that tension. And it allows them to have that free range of motion, which eventually will get them to where they can go overhead. Within a matter of minutes, to be honest, using these circular patterns, they will tell me that their pain has lessened. When dealing with general population, it's not just enough to go through the motions of the Indian Club. In other words, it's not just enough to get them technically proficient in the movements, but it becomes more about patterning the movements over and over again in every single session that you have with them. Because what that does is, when you start patterning good movement, initially what it does is it makes them more aware when they're in their day-to-day activities. That's the first step. So patterning makes them more aware, But when you are after that stage of awareness, we want it to become automatic. And when they start patterning these movements over and over again with you in your session, that pattern will carry over into your deadlift, your swings, and then all of a sudden, everything they do with you becomes a pattern. And it's all patterning good movements. And the ultimate goal is be able to take that concept and have them apply it to their day-to-day activities in their life. So if they're picking up their kid or a bag of groceries or they're moving around, all these good patterns that you built with the Indian club to start and then with the kettlebell and the barbell and the body weight, that will carry over into their daily lives. And now they're moving more efficiently, they're more aware of their surroundings, and they actually become more fit. So how does the patterning help with injury prevention? So if I can teach my student or my athlete or general population how to move better and why, then they will start thinking about this when they pick up their kid and being aware and patterning these good movements and applying it to their daily activities. They're not going to put themselves in a position where they can go like this to pick something up, because they're never going to be in that position. They're automatically going to be here. You know, their shoulder mobility by using the Indian clubs is already going to be better, so that when they're lifting something overhead to put something in their car, on top of their car or whatever they're doing, their body's ready for it. So they're not going to have those, they're not going to be in those positions where they have the potential for injury like most people are.